Okay, so today we're going to be writing the equations of the circles where they're giving us the radius versus the diameter. So the first two are just some basic ones, and we should already know how to write those. So looking at number 1, they give us our center and our radius, which is the two things that we need in order to write an equation. So we're plugging it in here. I know that my x is my h, my k is my y. So when I write this equation, it would be x, and since it's minus a negative 10, we would just write 8x plus 10 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals, and when we square the square root of 30, it just gives us 30. Okay? Then in number 2, they give us the center and the diameter. But we don't need the diameter, so what would we do to the diameter to get the radius? We'd half it. So our radius would be 4. So when we wrote our equation, that would give us x minus 5 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 16. Easy, right? Okay. Now, in number 2, they give us our center, and then they give us a point on the circle. And so we did some of these yesterday. What did we do when we were given a circle and they gave us the center and then this point here? What did we find? We found the distance. So I would go ahead and label my points x1, y1, x2, and y2. And then I'm going to plug into the distance formula. So I get the square root of 4 minus 2 squared plus 9 minus 6 squared. I know that 4 minus 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4, plus 9 minus 6 is 3, 3 squared is 9. So I get the square root of 13 is my radius. So then when I plug into my equation of a circle, I get x minus 2 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals, and then I do square root of 13 squared, which is 13. Okay? Now, the next ones that they give us, like in number 5, we haven't done one like this. So we're given a circle, and we're given 2 endpoints of a diameter. So we're given that point and that point. We need the center, and then we need to find the radius as well. So we're looking for our center and our radius. So how can we find the center of that? You do the midpoint theorem. So our midpoint theorem, I'm going to go up here and label x1, y1, x2, y2. And that's going to be negative 1 plus a negative 5 divided by 2, and 0 plus a negative 4 divided by 2. And so my midpoint would be negative 3, negative 2. So now I have this point, and I need to find my radius. So how would I find the radius? Very good. We can use one of either of these points and find the distance from the center to the radius. So I'm going to use negative 1 and 0. So I'm going to let this be x2, y2, and I'm going to plug into my distance formula. So that would be negative 3 minus a negative 1 squared plus negative 2 minus 0 squared. So that would give us the distance of negative 3 minus a negative 1 is negative 3 plus 1. So that's a negative 2, and negative 2 squared is 4. Plus negative 2 minus 0 is just negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. So we end up getting square root of 8 as our radius. You could do 2 root 2. It's actually easier if we just leave it like that, because when we square it, it's going to give us 8. So now we write our equation. So our equation will be x plus 3 squared. It's plus since this 3 is negative, plus y plus 2 squared equals 8.
So basically it's just adding the midpoint to it?
Yes. Okay, so let's do one more of those. So let's look at number 8. In number 8, they give me 2 midpoints. I need to find my center, which y'all told me I can do using the midpoint, and then I also need to find my radius. So I'm going to do midpoint first, and I'm going to label x1, y1, x2, y2. So my midpoint would be negative 2 plus 6 divided by 2, comma, 3 plus a negative 7 divided by 2. So that would give me 4 over 2, which is 2, and negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. So my center is 2, negative 2. Then I want to find my distance for my radius. So distance is going to equal the square root of, I'm going to use my first point again, so I'm going to let this be x2, y2. And that would be 2 minus a negative 2 squared plus negative 2 minus 3 squared. Two minus a negative 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 squared is 16, plus negative 5 squared is 25. So my distance is square root of 41, or my radius is square root of 41. Then we want to write our equation. So we're using our center and our radius. This would be x minus 2 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 41. Okay, so do we have any questions about those? Okay, let's flip to the back. And we're going to skip the graphing ones because I think you guys can do that. And I want to look at one translation one. So let's look at number 14. We have right 4, down 3. Is right my x or my y?
Right is
X. And down is my y. So this is changing x. So this would change to x. And since this is a positive 4, this is negative 3. When I plug it into the parentheses, it should be x what? Minus 4 squared plus y plus 3 squared. And then my 256 doesn't change. It just stays the same.